So we're on essay 5 in Kuntres Acharon, the last section of the Tanya, the fifth section. I'll again use the lessons in Tanya, it's page 355. Here is a recap of the past chapter and an introduction to the next chapter. The mitzvahs requiring action were a major theme in essay 4. There, the Alter Rebbe explained how their observance extricates and elevates the sparks of holiness, the nitzutzos, that originated in the world of tohu, the world of chaos, and that are embedded in the material world, and thereby causes hashgadliness to descend there, because the nitzutzos, the sparks, are there. The same, it was stated, is true regarding the study of the laws that govern the mitzvahs. So it's not just the mitzvahs themselves, but also the halachas associated with the mitzvahs. The Alter Rebbe went on to say that this applies as well to the prohibitory mitzvahs, where one cannot apply the dictum that, quote, it is considered as if one performed the command by studying the laws. Why? Because you're not fulfilling you're not doing the command. It's mitzvahs loisase iser. It's do not do. So to say kol loimet Torah's oila. This is a quote. Whoever studies the laws of the oil of the carbon oila, ki'ilu hikriv carbon oil. It's as though you brought the carbon oil. But that's true when you're doing something positive. And it's a mitzvah that's a mitzvah aseh. So then you say that although you cannot do it in action for whatever reason, but when you learn those halachas, it's like you've done it. The same idea, if a person can't go to the mikveh and they can take a shower, they should have tisha kabim, 9 kabim of water, which is like going into a mikveh. And these halachas are real because, unfortunately, when someone passes away and they don't have a mikveh near them, you're supposed to purify the body in a mikveh before burial. So you pour tisha kabim on them. And this is done plenty of times in many communities where there are mikvehs, but for some reason they can't go to the mikveh, they can't get to the mikveh, whatever the case. So what do we see? That when it comes to a mitzvah aseh, by learning the halachas of that mitzvah, it's as though you did the mitzvah. But that logic doesn't apply to a mitzvah loisase. Mitzvah loisase means prevent yourself, hold yourself back. So I don't do anything. It's not proactive, I'm being passive. That's what he says here. Continuing. Moreover, Torah study remains valuable even with regard to the laws concerning situations that will never occur. Even though there too, we cannot say that if one remained passive and did not transgress, he is rewarded as if he had performed the mitzvah. Nevertheless, even in such cases, a Torah law draws down supernal wisdom within the world. So this is what we're going to talk about more in this chapter. That even when there isn't a mitzvah aseh, it's a mitzvah loisase. Learning Torah about the mitzvah loisase draws elikus, godliness, into the world. Not in the way that it's as though you've done the mitzvah, which is the case in a mitzvah aseh. So it's not in that manner. That's true. But yet, somehow, it draws down supernal wisdom, which we call Chochma Ilah Baruch. Chochma Ilah within the world. In the essay before us, which is essay 5, the Alter Rebbe will state that although it would seem that purifications, birurim, the Hebrew word birurim, cannot be brought about when studying these types of laws, for one only draws down supernal wisdom. Okay? Drawing down supernal wisdom is not causing the tikkun. You hear the difference, Chevra? This is important. In order to cause tikkun, you have to, of birurim, of sparks, you need to use the spark. So the question is, what about the sparks that are associated with mitzvahs lo seseh? How do you cause kind of a birur? That's the theme of this chapter. So and he says that the fact that you draw down chochmi la, thank you very much. Okay, you draw down some significant light, energy, very nice. But that doesn't yet mean that the spark itself is from where it's at in its own skin receives birur. There's a difference. There's a difference being inspired by what I'm saying, and then to taking what I'm saying and what we're learning, and you yourself come to that understanding and you work out issues within yourself. It's a very different process. Both are important, they both are good, but it's two different things. So the fact that we draw down supernal wisdom, whoopee, gewaldig, but the spark is still stuck. The nitzutz is still not in his barer. That's his point. Yet, in point of fact, purifications do come about through this Torah study. So what we're going to learn is that, guess what? Even when you learn about a mitzvah lo seseh, or about a mitzvah that will never happen, or very seldom will happen, as we'll learn in this chapter, there not only is there a drawing down of supernal wisdom, there also is purification. And that's a chidush. That's a novelty. Moreover, the reason for this is not that the Torah study leads one to observe a positive commandment or to refrain from transgressing a prohibition. Not is it that by virtue of his study is he regarded as if he performed the positive commandment or is rewarded for refraining from transgressions, a prohibition. And here he touches Hillel on another point. When we learn Torah, so the average, the normal thinking process is you learn Torah, it's like you're actually taking the physical item and refining it. What we're going to learn in this chapter, in Essay 5, Moshe, is something very different, very, very important. That Torah itself stands on its own. You know, we were raised in a society like, what do I get for that? How am I going to benefit? You go to school and you study hard and you're up at nights, you become a doctor. So Isser's a doctor. So there was a logic to the reason which his parents probably paid for him to become a doctor, or he paid his own way, whatever the case. You see, he paid his own way. Why? I'll become a doctor. I'll be able to help people. I'll also make a parnasa. I'll be able to feed my family. It's logical. And it's Torah. When it comes to Torah learning, the ultimate of Torah learning transcends that logic. It's not because, Moshe, you'll study in yeshiva, you'll learn how to think. And if you want to be a Rav, you'll get smicha. And you'll be able to get a job in the tzava as a rabbi, or in a community in Timbuktu, in Albuquerque, for example, or in Michlitz, wherever your son is out there in Hungary. That's a logical, acceptable reason, but that's not why you learn Torah, and that's not what Torah really is about. And if I don't get the job, I shouldn't learn Torah. Torah itself, it was just coming from Matan Torah this week. Torah itself is about holiness. And holiness is not something that is tit for tat. You know, holiness it's holiness. The whole idea, especially by Hasidim, being by a Rebbe. Why would you go to a Rebbe, Yoni, when you have to schwitz and you have to push, and you're up there at night, and you don't know where you're eating, and you don't know where your kids are, right? This whole balagan. See them go to a Rebbe. They know that, they feel that a Rebbe is the communicator of the Dvar Hashem, right? But those people that go to a Rebbe and they say, hey, Rebbe, I need to have a bracha for Parnasa, for Shidduchim, for this or that. And if the bracha doesn't come, or if it doesn't come the way they want it to come, or they don't get the red carpet, they say, I'm checking out, I'm going to another Rebbe. And trust me, there's a lot of people like that. I know, because I speak to them here in Borough Park. Right? That's not why you go to a Rebbe. That means it's very selfish. Then you're going for yourself. Is it better to go for yourself than not to go at all? I guess it is. But that's really missing the point. And the same was with Torah learning. This is what we're about to learn here in Essay 5. Baruch, the idea of Birudim and the idea of drawing down what we call Chochmi, law, supernal wisdom, are fascinations. It's fascinations and important ones. But that's not why you learn Torah. So B'meila, what we're going to learn is here that the kernel of Torah transcends those fascinations. And since it transcends those fascinations, therefore, even a mitzvah that's lo shchicha klal, that seldom happens or never happens, like the mitzvah of, for example, Ir Anidachas, right? A city that's sinful, and you're supposed to, and that will lead to a destruction. It never happened. Because if you look into the Gemara, I believe in Sanhedrin, the details of Ir Nitachas, impossible to even have such a situation. Yeah, right? And other laws that we're going to mention in this year, in the next few days. Very seldom. B'meila, why learn about it? Right? Like the story I've told you, the father comes home, he asks his son, what'd you learn about today? He said about one ox goring another ox. And what? How much do you pay? 50% chatzi nezek or nezek sholim? Right? The Gemara Bava Kama, which you learned as a boy, Yaini, as a young teenager. Right? So, father says, that's why I sent you to yeshiva? I send you to yeshiva and spend all this money for you to learn about oxen goring each other? What does it have to do with the world we live in? Right? Because and don't think that this is just a story. My own grandfather wanted to take my father out at 15 years old, 15, 16 years old from yeshiva, took him out, because in Romania, you didn't learn past 15. At 15, you were working to help bring parnasa into the house. The average, and they were frum, and they were Hasidim. The average frum, Chassid, Litvak, in Russia, Poland, Hungary, didn't learn past 15. Give or take. The whole yeshiva system to learn further 16, 17, 18, 19 is a chidush. There was always, those that were, gifted and excelled, but overall, it wasn't that way. So when you hear about Volozhin having hundreds of Bacharim, thank you. How many Bacharim were there in Russia in 1870? 40, 50,000? How many were in the yeshiva? 200? Come on. Time Chetmimim, Lubavitch, 1897, 1898, 1900. 1900 at 1910, 300 students. Wow. Talk about Navardik. Navardik had, during the 1920s and 30s, 50, 60 small yeshivas, just like Chabad had. How many do you think together were all the students in both Navardik and Chabad? 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. So, why? Because the logic was, you get the basics in learning, and now you got to bring parnasa. We need to build a home. We have girls. We have to marry them off. They're going to want to have dowry. Nothing. If you don't have anything, no one's going to want to look at you. That's the way it used to be. From the best homes, if you couldn't give Naden, you were a nobody. Do you know that they say the story, and I can believe it, that, you know, the Rebbe's mother, Rebbetzin Chana, came to see the previous Rebbe and his wife to arrange for the shidduch for her son, and the Frierdiker Rebbe said, I don't have a penny to my name. This was Poland, Warsaw, 1927, 28, whatever, 28. I would love to give you Naden. I don't have. I can't pay the bills for what we're doing. So they say that the agreement was that, okay, after 120, give him, you know, leadership of Chabad. Again, no one can prove that, but that's the word on the street. But the idea that the first part to me is more truthful than the second part. That the previous Rebbe didn't have money to give Naden, which was the standard in those days. Today, in Chabad, it's like vilified. Not in other communities. The Hungarians and Polish around here, you don't give Naden, you can take a hike. Okay? And big Naden, as you know. But in Lubavitch, even today, it's not an accepted thing. And if someone raises it, it raises eyebrows and becomes a whole to-do. Yes, Hillel.
Is the word not a Rosh Tevot? Or just a word, I mean,
I don't know.
you know, just because in Halacha there's an acronym for not, and I'm just wondering if there's...
No. Not is with a test.
Comes from the dunya.
No. Wait, slow. Not is with a test. Bar not. Not bar not.
Okay.
And by the way, that's an acronym for Netilat Tam.
Yeah, no ten tam.
No Tang Tam, Netilat Tam. Putting taste into the food. Here it's with a dalit. Here it's with a dalit, and Isser gave us the answer. The word Naden is from the word Nedunya, which is dowry.
Nadin.
Nadin.
Okay. I didn't hear it right.
Yeah. But anyway, let's not get sidetracked. The point being that there's always something connected to, you know. So what I'm saying is that you find in Torah law now, there's a concept of Naden. There is a concept of Naden. It's not to be, you know, it's not like you're evil. You're not evil. Look into the Ksuba. Look into what you guys are making marriages and more marriages. Look at the Ksuba, what you're obligating yourself. Look into Atanoim. Take the time and translate it into English. You'll see what you're obligating yourself. And, you know, something that people don't do enough, where they don't explain to the chassan the obligations. You know, a lot of them, they just get that next, paper here, there, and they go. But if you read it, there's an obligation. And, you know, God forbid, let me say, you know, whatever, there's a divorce. That's when that ksuba takes effect. And then those words that you didn't know what they meant, and what you just, what? What'd you say? What did you say? Okay. So the bottom line is that almost everything has like a cause and effect. What we're going to learn over here is Torah is pure. You don't learn Torah because of any of the reasons, because what you're going to get out of it. So that's the answer. At 15, you got to go to work because you need parnasa. That's logical. But Torah's beyond that. And that's what the mashpia told my father, and ultimately he went back to yeshiva after taking a hiatus and working in a bicycle shop of a Belzer Chassid on Rehov Chernyshkovsky, a few blocks where my daughter lives in Tel Aviv in 1955. And the mashpia and the bacher came to see my grandparents and said, you learn Torah because it's Torah's Hashem. And a bacher should, today it's not Poland, it's not Romania, it's not Hungary, it's not Russia. We're in Eretz Yisrael. we're building a country. It's a different environment. And Baruch Hashem, the yeshivas, all the yeshivas, with the Rosh Yeshiva and the Maggid, saw this as a new approach to building Am Yisrael. Okay? It could have been otherwise. It could have been they would have continued the trajectory of Europe in this detail that, no, 15, the ending 15. Yes, sir.
I would suggest that the reason that there was a difference in Europe of past, and even in America of the past, and the current reality now in Europe, America, and Israel is the development of the welfare state. It was impossible before the welfare state for people to survive without the children going to work. Now, there's all kinds of government support which enables people to continue. It was a reality. It was just impossible.
Right. Well, and every country in a different way became a welfare state. I don't know every country, but I don't know which is better. Some will say it was better, the other way. I mean, that's what Trump and company is doing now. I mean, this is an ongoing debate. Do you cut programs or not? In America, as you know, it's a debate between the Democrats and the Republicans. My father always would tell me when I was a boy growing up and had no idea about politics, the Democrats are better because there's more programs for the Jews. I remember here, there's more benefits that Yidden can benefit, and the Republicans, have another shita. So, but again, let's get now down to what we're supposed to be learning, which is Tanya, and this idea of Torah going beyond all of these reasons. So if a boy or girl, okay, let's make it practical. A teenager, 15, 16, 17, says, I want to go out of yeshiva. Yeshiva's not for me, and this is very common today. I need not tell you. I'm sure, I don't know if all of us, but some of us have had these challenges. I've had it, others have had it, right? So what do you say? What do you say? What do you do? The first thing is you have to be a mensch. The second thing is you have to be not involved and stand back. And the third thing is you have to use your seichel. And when you do the three things, then you're able to gradually ride the bumps. And a lot of bumps, right? And guess what? Like a professional told me years ago, a Chassidish psychologist from the Twersky family right here in Borough Park, prominent Chernobyler, said to me the big words that, I didn't think of ever before. Not every boy is cut out to sit and learn in yeshiva all of his life or, all of his yeshiva years. The new reality. At the same time, there is value to being in a system. And I've seen that too. And I've seen how even, they don't become rabbis or shluchim or in Klei Kodesh and they go into the business world. But being in a yeshiva misgeres, in an environment of a yeshiva till 18, 19, 20, 21, it brings a certain solid base, and it helps, later in life. So Torah, going back to Torah transcends all of that. Let's learn inside a few minutes. We have to learn inside. Ulahav, again, we're essay 5. If you're using lessons in Tanya, which I'm using is 355. If not, it's page 318 in the regular Tanyas. Let us understand how this applies, how what we learned earlier in chapter 4 applies to the details of law of halacha that never occur at all. And possibly never actually existed. Surely these laws will not be in the future when Mashiach comes. For example, Kimoi prote dini pigul kai gavna. The details of pigul. Pigul, the basic idea of pigul is, the Torah says, a certain sacrifice, yoni, you're allowed to eat 2 days and 1 night. Another one, just 1 night and a day, right? From when you bring it to the Kohen, to the Beis Hamikdash, to Mizbeach. And if you don't do that, it becomes pigul. Another detail of pigul is, you're supposed to eat it in Yerushalayim, and you have a mind, hey, I'm going to take it back to Ashdod. I need a good piece, I need a good barbecue in Ashdod. July 4th is coming, and I got to do a big barbecue. So I'm going to take the carbon that I brought, shvuas, oila regel, whatever, in the Beis Hamikdash, and I'm going to schlep it back. That's pigul. Because this particular carbon was supposed to be eaten specifically, Baruch, in Yerushalayim. And there are many other details. So when you learn the laws and all the laws, you see that it's not just one condition. You have to meet numerous conditions, which is very difficult. So that's why he says, "Ukahai gavna," so that's the whoever's Baruch. Please mute yourself. So how does the study of these laws extract, refine, and elevate the sparks of Torah? In other words, Moshe, when you talk about a halacha that you learn, that's practical, that's usable, so we know that by learning those laws, you extract spiritually the sparks in the apple, right? An apple a day keeps the doctor away, make a bracha on the apple, by your prio hates, have kavana, and you've elevated the apple. Very good. What about something that's never going to happen? Why should I learn about that? That's the question. So it's known. When the Alter Rebbe says, Isser, it's like, this is a public statement. This is a public announcement. We all know this. It's a given. What is it? What do we all know? Every single type of prohibition, it has a source and a root of life in negative energy, klippus. And that is a very, very emphatic statement. Menashe. What's the emphatic statement? Any lo sese, or anything that's in the Torah that you shouldn't do, like pigul or ir nidachas, or all of these mitzvahs that never will be, they have a source in klippus. And somehow, if you don't learn about it properly, you're releasing negative energy. And you don't want to do that. Because when negative energy is released, it's very hard to get rid of. And it causes a balagan, as we say. Let's continue. She'im loikein, the Alter Rebbe argues his position. If this wasn't the case, that every aspect of Torah, even if it doesn't happen practically, is rooted in the klippus, when you're not supposed to do it, that it wouldn't be able to exist in the physical world, without receiving vitality from a spiritual source. Everything in this physical world requires and necessitates a connection to God. Elokus. You can't, you hear what the Alter Rebbe says here, and here I'll put it in startling words. October 7th could not happen if there wasn't godly energy associated with it. Impossible. The way it played itself out is that we messed up, and there's free will, and we have terrorists and enemies, but all of that is only because there's an energy to klippa. You understand? And if there was no energy to klippa, a non-Jew cannot, impossible to hurt a Jew, because a Jew is living the life of Hashem, and a non-Jew who, not a regular non-Jew, a hater, an enemy, is antithetical to God. How can an antithetical issue contrary to God contradict God? It can't. So what's the logic? That's not antithetical. It's not antithetical. Klippos are a force that God himself made, that Hashem made. He made it to challenge us. And boy, have we been challenged. And look at all the good that's come out of it. Is that a reason why it should have been to begin with? No, but the Poel Mamish, it happened that way. So that's his argument over here. We'll stop here, and tomorrow and Monday we're going to learn about hairdos. Get ready to talk about hairstyles. You find fascinating things in Tanya. Hairstyles, hairdos. Okay?
Rebbe,
Yes.
Rebbe, I think I could be mistaken. I think it was the Kleisenberger Rebbe. They asked the Kleisenberger Rebbe when he came out of the camps, and his wife and children were murdered. So they asked him where was Hashem in the gas chamber. He said in the gas chamber. That's where he was.
Hey, 1 second, Chevra, mute yourself. Then you'll come back on because I can't hear. Yeah, Hashem is in the gas chambers. Go ahead. Yeah.
They said to him, go on like this. You look at that. You have strength, you have energy to move on. And he said, where was Hashem? He said, camps. It's what you're saying, very similar to what you're saying, that he saw the klipa.
He saw the klipa. That's right. He saw the klipa. And that's the whole idea. The Arabim, the Arabs, with the half milah, we've spoken about this in the past, they have the Zohar HaKadosh. It's not my chiddush. The Zohar HaKadosh says that's where they suck energy. And the klipa, so we have to be aware of it. Yes, someone else wanted to say something. Yes.
Yes, I'd like to know some other time, maybe for Brennan, we can explain the change now between the Democrats and Republicans, where the Democrats are no longer good for the Jews anymore. I mean, obviously not with the Tanya class, but if you could give some other class for Brennan, I would really appreciate it.
Menashe, if I did that, I would be stoned because I'm sure we have disagreement over here. So I'd rather not go that way. You know, I did a few. I'll tell you, Menashe. Seriously, I did a few podcasts and things that I mentioned some politics and from the closest people, I got it over their head. Rabbi, you're mixing the religion, Hasidus, and politics. Stay away from it. And this guy was, very democratic, and I seem to be more Republican. So I think the healthiest thing is to keep politics out of these classes. But privately, Menashe, maybe we could talk about it. But I don't think it's a good idea for Brennan because it just will be very, very divisive. Not even if it's not divisive here, but people will listen to the shiurim. You don't want. I'm telling you, this was a very good friend, and he alluded to the fact that if I continue, he's going to cut me off. Like, hey, we learn together, we're friends and everything. Yeah, but I don't know about these politics touches such a chord in certain people that they just get very, very upset. So. Who needs it? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, Chevra, have a great day. We'll see everyone Monday. Have a great Shabbos. Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a good Shabbos. Thank you.
Shalom. Bye-bye. Zaygasm.